It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I had the privilege to interview Brian Jones, the Arizona University football director of strength and coordinating. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you got started in the strength and coordinating?
Strength and conditioning. Yeah. When I finished my playing career in the NFL with the Baltimore Ravens, I knew that I wanted to still be a part of football. I wanted to be in the everyday dealing with it, just in the organizational and part of it and deal with the athletes. So my first start was at Florida State. I was able to join kind of in the bottom of the ranks, bottom of the totem pole, as an assistant strength coach there at Florida State in my hometown of Tallahassee, and that's kind of how this thing got started.
Can you talk about your time at Florida State?
Yeah. So, coming out of, actually being a player and, spending a lot of time in the weight room as an athlete, Florida State was really an eye-opener just because I got to see the inner workings of a strength program, well, strength, speed and conditioning program from the inside. So learning all the nuances and from a logistical standpoint, the organizational standpoint, what it actually takes to program. It's not just putting a bunch of weight on the bar. And actually seeing the inner workings kind of helped groom me as a coach and having that understanding that it was going to take a lot of learning and studying and reading and networking and asking questions to do the job effectively.
Can you talk about your time playing college ball and then also getting into the NFL playing for the Baltimore Ravens?
So, my time as an athlete and played at Louisiana State University. Nick Saban was my head coach. And then after he left to go to the Miami Dolphins, Les Miles took over, and I was under him for 2 years as a player. Played offensive line. So, a lot of the things that I do now, the way I run my organization, are based off a lot of things that I've seen in college. Matter of fact, my head strength coach from college is my mentor, Coach Tommy Moffitt. Is my mentor. And, kind of even going and seeing how things were done in the NFL. A lot of things about strength and conditioning doesn't change from some of the meat and potatoes, but everybody kind of has their own method. So even seeing how things were done in the NFL, how players handled strength and conditioning a lot differently than, collegiate athletes was an eye-opener as well.
Can you talk about playing under Nick Saban, the legendary coach?
It was anytime you have an opportunity to be around people who are considered the best at what they do. You have to make sure you're taking something from that. And I was blessed with the opportunity to play under him, and just the way he went about his business, his consistency and his message, and always having something that he stood for and he believed in, and he stuck with it. But more importantly, his willingness to evolve and adapt, I think, was one of the biggest lessons that I got from Coach Saban. Just because he won, his first national championship, I was fortunate enough to be on that team in 2003. He's not doing the same thing going for a national championship in 2020. He knows that in order to stay relevant, in order to stay the best, that he has to evolve and he has to improve. And, a lot of people get caught up in, oh, well, I went undefeated. I beat everybody. I don't need to change anything. And in my opinion, he's one of the best to ever do it because he understands that there's something. There are always things to improve on, and I think that's some of the biggest. Those are the biggest lessons that I've been able to take from it, understanding that no matter what you feel the outcome is that there's always something to improve on.
What have you accomplished at Arizona on the football side in the strength and coordinating?
The biggest thing that I've been able to, I feel, accomplish, and I would say just throughout my entire career, is the development of my athletes. Um, watching guys grow from freshmen to be first-round draft picks or free agents and make a 53-man roster, or a free agent that makes a practice squad roster, or the senior that graduates and doesn't get the opportunity to play in the NFL, but still finds a way to be successful in whatever they're doing. And then they still talk to me, they still call me, they still reach out and seek advice. I think that's my biggest accomplishment, period, as a coach, is that I've been able to help develop young men and put them in the world ready for whatever comes their way. But here at Arizona, I would say just a continuing of building a culture of hard work, consistency, you know, developing guys to be able to be healthy on the field, and look to me as somebody that they trust to not only serve as a coach, but a mentor. I think that's one of the biggest things I've been able to accomplish here in Arizona.
Can you talk about the day-to-day aspect and basis whenever it comes to being a strength and coordinating coach?
As far as the day-to-day, it's early mornings. I mean, I get up and my wife are still asleep. So my alarm clock goes off about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I get to work around 5:30, 5:45. On a day that we have lifts, we'll have our developmental guys in here in the mornings at 7. We'll roll out groups. We'll be lifting, and then just, getting ready for practice, setting up for warm-ups, and a lot of our GPS tracking and making sure all that stuff is ready to roll, and then we practice. And that's really the day-to-day. A lot of meetings, a lot of talking to football coaches, a lot of talking to the head coach, just talking about where the team is from a performance standpoint, and what practice should look like in the following days.
Can you talk about how you have built the program for the strength and conditioning?
How have I built the program? First and foremost, it's really mainly built off of what the head coach, Coach Sumlin, deems important. His big thing is, and most head coaches, they have a set of characteristics or pillars or foundational things that they want instilled into their program, and it's my job to be kind of the main echo for those things, because I'm around them year round. So first and foremost, I base it off of the message that the head coach wants, and then everything else just falls in between, what the team needs from a developmental standpoint, and figuring out the best ways to get there. So everything is very scientific as far as the means and the mode and how we get to whatever we're trying to get to from a programming standpoint.
What are some of your future plans whenever it comes to the Arizona football program and building the strength and conditioning?
Honestly, the biggest plan is to just continue to develop athletes so that they're able to go out and perform and win football games, to start developing, more guys that are, draft picks, get some first-round draft picks out of here, win championships. And that's really what this thing is all about.
What are some of your future plans for the director of strength and conditioning?
I guess that, some of my personal goals would possibly become an athletic director, to be over all of performance, nutrition, have a huge say-so in return to perform once a player is out of the training room, sports psychology, being over the whole department, having that human performance model and overseeing multiple dimensions of performance, from sports science and all of that good stuff, just making sure that there's a holistic approach and not a bunch of different pieces, which is, collegiate athletics, that's a lot of what's going on right now. It's a lot of different pieces, and you got this one section where these people communicate and they only tell the next people certain things or just what they need to hear, but having a holistic deal where everybody who is involved with performance knows everything that's going on, so we can make sure that our players are ready to roll.
What have you learned now that you didn't know before you started being the director of strength and conditioning?
I think the biggest thing is actually like what it takes to be a director. It's not just, being an assistant is really, your job is to make things easier for the director. And I don't think as an assistant, I truly understood what that meant. Now that I'm a director, I know exactly what that means because I can't think of everything. I can't oversee everything because there are a lot of times that I have to be upstairs talking to coaches, getting everybody on the same page about practice and where the team is and what guys they need to be, taken care of from a volume or load intensity standpoint. So just a lot of administrative stuff. There's a lot of answering emails, answering messages on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, people with questions, dealing with administration, make sure you're recording everything that's happening so no one can come and poke holes in what you're doing. So that's really a lot. It's a lot of administrative stuff. It's a lot of time at the computer and the desk, which part of the reason I became a strength coach is so I could spend more time in the weight room on the floor and not so much time at the desk. So actually getting adjusted to being at a desk and typing emails and answering phone calls and talking to administrators, talking to coaches, talking to trainers, talking to sports psychologists, talking to the nutritionists. It's a lot of different hats that you have to put on. There's a lot of different languages you need to be able to speak as a director, and you're not really ready for it. You don't know everything that it entails until you're kind of in those shoes.
Can you talk about your playing experience in the NFL with the Baltimore Ravens?
Yeah, my playing experience is it was short. I only spent 3 years in the NFL. 2 of those were with the Ravens, and that last year was really kind of a injured reserve deal. I had a back injury, and that's what kind of ultimately ended my career sooner than I would have liked. But being with the Baltimore Ravens was great. I was in a building with some great people. I mean, Coach Harbough, who's still there, doing a great job. And being around people like Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, being in a building with Willis McGahee, being in a building with Haloti Ngata, some really great football players who I had even looked up to as a younger collegiate and high school athlete was great to kind of see how they operate. Like I said, anytime you're able to be in a building with people who are considered the best at what they do, you always have to look at those as learning experiences. Don't take them for granted because if you can take those things that those people do and apply them to your life, you kind of put yourself ahead of 80, 90% of the people who are doing the same thing you're doing.
Can you talk about playing right beside Ray Lewis?
Well, I didn't play right beside him. I played offensive line, but being in the same locker room, being on the same field, honestly, it's the same thing I can say about being a player under Coach Saban. He expects the best from himself. So therefore, as somebody who's around him, you have to expect the best from yourself. You won't belong in the same building. You know what I mean? Like there's a certain expectation when you're around people like that. It brings out it's either going to bring out the best or it's going to bring out the worst in you. But the biggest thing is the consistency, how much time he put into learning the game, how much time he put into other teammates, encouraging and motivating. I mean, some of the best speeches I've heard before a game were from Ray Lewis. Watching Ed Reed and his ability to come, I want to say in 2008, he was injured, came back a little late in the season, and then ended up leading the league in interceptions. Like it was just ridiculous to watch how those guys prepare, and a lot of their preparation you never even saw. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a lot of things going on behind closed doors and on their own time where everybody couldn't see them. It wasn't visible to everybody. And that's what I think gave them the edge for so long. Nobody could really pinpoint exactly what they were doing, but it showed on Sundays.
Can you talk about wearing the Baltimore Ravens jersey and how that feels?
I mean, it was cool. I mean, it was, you work hard and, you spend your whole life trying to get to the NFL and play for as long as you can. So, it was just an honor to be in the NFL. It was an honor to have the opportunity to work towards some of the goals that I'd had since I was a young football player. So it was great. And, it's a great organization. It was reminded me a lot of the type of football we played when I was in college at LSU. So it felt like I was home when I was there.
What advice would you give upcoming collegiate directors in strength and conditioning?
The biggest thing I just said about those, some of those people I've been around that are considered the best, consistency. Be willing to put in the time, be willing to put in the work. Don't shy away from the jobs that everybody else kind of turns their back to or may, feel like they're too good to do. I was told by one of my old bosses that the secret to success is doing the things that no one else wants to do. And Coach Fisher was my offensive coordinator, and I worked for him at Florida State when he was the head coach. His opening line on every first day was, what is the key to success? Or what is the secret to success? And his answer was, there is no secret. Success is hard. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of sacrifice. And you have to be willing to do more than everyone else if you want to be the best, if you want to reach the highest parts of this business. And that's being director, that's being an athletic director. You can't shy away from doing the hard things. That means reading and learning and spending time around people who know more than you, letting your ego go and being okay saying you don't know, but also having, the willingness to go and find out. I think those are the things that young strength coaches need to really understand when it goes to come through this business, because it can be really hard.
Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
On Twitter and Instagram, I'm Coach B. That's Coach BEE. 1. Matter of fact, it's _ Coach BEE 1. So that's Instagram and Twitter.
Thank you again, Brian, for your interview, and best of luck in the Director of Strength and Conditioning at Arizona for the football program.
I appreciate you too. Thanks for having me.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at @talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Brian, for your interview, and best of luck.
Thank you. You too.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.